friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Millie and today I'm going to be bringing you the definitive guide to Emily Henry. Now, I would not hesitate to call myself Emily Henry's #1 fan. I know there's a lot of people out there who would say it, but for me. It's me. I am her #1 fan. I have loved every single Emily Henry book that I've read. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about some of her books, particularly People We Meet on Vacation or You and Me on Vacation, as it's published in the UK. I personally have loved all of her books. I don't think I've ever given an Emily Henry book lower than a 4.5 stars, so I feel like I'm qualified to make this guide and also qualified to call myself her #1 fan. So, in terms of who Emily Henry is a romance author. However, her books are definitely, as they've gone on, as she's been publishing, have definitely become more of literary romances, so they are not just solely romance books, they involve a lot of emotional topics as well. So I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about all of her books, and also about, if you are in the mood for a certain thing, which of her books you should read. And we're doing this, of course, in honour of the fact that Funny Story is coming out soon. I'm sort of going to be releasing this on publication day for Funny Story, so I don't have my finished copy yet. However, I was really kindly sent a proof copy from the publisher, which I am so grateful for, to have my first ever Emily Henry proof. I could not be more thankful. So that's why we're doing it, in honour of Funny Story's release. We're going to start off with going in publication order, which means that the first book that we're going to be talking about of Emily Henry's is actually my favourite book of hers, Beach Read. I cannot express how much I freaking love Beach Read. This is probably my favourite book of all time. I can't even explain it. This book just spoke to me in a way that no book has ever fully looked into my soul before. I am very passionate about Beach Read, and even though it's probably not going to be for everybody, this book was for me in a way that no book has ever felt before. As soon as I finished Beach Read, I felt like crying because I'd finished it. I wanted to live in this world forever with these characters forever. And I think what I loved the most was the dynamic between January and Gus. So in this, we're following two writers. We are following one romance writer, January, who doesn't believe in happy endings anymore, and we're also following a literary writer who's stuck in a rut, and they end up renting neighbouring houses on Lake Michigan, and they challenge each other to a summer sort of writing competition where they'll write in each other's genres in order to get out of their writing blocks, and they have until the end of the summer to sort of see who can be published first. The dynamic between January and Gus was so fantastic. It was like dark humoured, it was a bit sarcastic. Gus, I adore him. Gus was brooding and closed off, but once you got to know him, what a sweetheart. And January was likeable and funny and layered and held all of these feelings that I could just really relate to. And while there's a lot of discussion on love and romance, there's also a lot of discussion on grief in this book, and I was genuinely tearing up while reading it, and it just felt so soothing. It was honestly just like a comforting book. I can't even express how much I love it. I just love it to the ends of the earth, and even just talking about it makes me want to reread it. You know, I say that this is my favourite book of all time and I've only read it once, and I just feel like a reread is due because I first read this in 2022, I believe it was, and I just need to be back in this world with these characters again. I just love them so much. Some of my favourite quotes from Beach Read are, "When I watch you sleep, I feel overwhelmed that you exist. I've never met someone who is so perfectly my favourite person. I don't care how it ends as long as I spend it all with you. If you think the story has a bad ending, it's because it's not over yet." So that is Beach Read. That is Emily Henry's debut adult romance novel and my favourite of hers. And if you were to read any of Emily Henry's books, I would say to read Beach Read because it's the best. It is the best. We then have what is widely considered to be Emily Henry's worst book, and I don't agree with that. It's You and Me on Vacation. I'm going to be saying You and Me on Vacation because that is the UK title, although I know a lot of people will more commonly know it by People We Meet on Vacation. So in this one it is friends to lovers, which I believe is a lot of the reason why people don't like it, because people seem to have this hang up over friends to lovers, even though it is the best trope. So, you know, this is Friends to Lovers. We're following Alex and Poppy, who have gone on holiday together every single year for, I think it's 12 years, and we sort of get to see each summer that they've gone on holiday together to the different places. Poppy is a travel journalist, so that's how they're able to go on these holidays. All we really know in present day is that 2 summers ago everything went wrong and they're no longer speaking to each other, and I just really loved getting to see the summers gone by. I thought it made the slow burn of the Friends to Lovers so satisfying, because that is the best part about Friends to Lovers, is the slow burn and the pining of it, and in this one it was really, really satisfying to see. And I just really love the bond that these two characters have. I love that they brought out a side in each other that they didn't show to anybody else. And I was honestly just swooning over this book. The banter between them was so fantastic. Emily Henry writes really, really great banter, I have to say. And yeah, I really like this one. It wasn't my favourite of hers, but it was definitely still a 5-star read for me. Some of my favourite quotes from You and Me on Vacation are, "It hurts to want it all, so many things that can't coexist within the same life. I wish I could bottle this moment and wear it as a perfume. It would always be with me. Everywhere I went, he'd be there too, and so I'd always feel like myself. It's not your job to make me happy, okay? You can't make anyone happy. I'm happy just because you exist, and that's as much of my happiness as you have control over." So this was Emily Henry's second published book, and I know a lot of people will say don't read it, but I would still really recommend it, especially if you like Friends to Lovers. We then have probably what is my least favourite of Emily Henry's books. I still gave this a really high rating. This was 4.5 stars, but this was the only Emily Henry book that I haven't given 5 stars. However, this was actually the first book of hers that I read, and I think possibly now that I am a seasoned Emily Henry girly, if I went back and reread this, I would possibly enjoy it even more and give it 5 stars this time around. That is Book Lovers. So Book Lovers is kind of opposites attract. We have 2 literary agents in here, Nora and Charlie, and Nora is a girl who's been through enough breakups to know that she is the girl who, after she's broken up with, the guy goes on to find the love of his life. And honestly, this is really just a story written for older sisters, because in this we have Nora and her sister who go away to this like really quiet town for a month's holiday before Nora's sister is going to give birth. And while they're in this small town, Nora bumps into Charlie, who is actually her work nemesis. He's not another literary agent, he's an editor, and they're nemesis at work. But she keeps bumping into him in this town and she doesn't know why, and he acts completely different to how he does at work. And honestly, this, as I said, this is a book written for older sisters, and as an older sister, it really hurt. There's a lot to do with the need to do anything to protect your little sister and to like just keep your little sister happy, and I just felt that like in my core. And also this book is probably the most bookish of Emily Henry's books. I mean, with a title like Book Lovers, you'd expect it, but this definitely is. It's really about wrapping your whole life up in books and living in books and kind of not really living in the real world or allowing yourself to have a real life story. And there is a quote in here about having no life because there's always just something too good to read, and I felt that. If you are a book lover, read Book Lovers. And the romance in this was really cute. I really liked Charlie as a male lead. I really loved how he was with Nora. They have a grumpy and grumpy dynamic and it was so fun. But I really loved seeing how open they were when it was just the 2 of them. The chemistry was off the charts. And I really just loved Nora and getting to see kind of the thing that you don't see in, you know, like Hallmark movies where you see the girl who's left behind. And it was really, really lovely. The thing that lowered my rating was Nora's sister, Libby. She was really annoying me throughout the book, and although I understood why at the end, after discovering why she was being like that, she was really annoying. So I think that if I was to reread this, I would definitely give it possibly 5 stars because I would know why she was acting like that throughout the book rather than just being annoyed at her, which was the only thing that lowered my rating. And some quotes from Book Lovers that I really enjoy are, "Nora, he just barely smiles. You're in books. Of course you don't have a life. None of us do. There's always something too good to read. Maybe it's possible to have more than one home. Maybe it's possible to belong in 100 different ways to 100 different people and places. Just because not everyone gets you doesn't mean you're wrong." This is definitely the bookish Emily Henry book, and I would really recommend this if you love a story dealing with sisters, this does it so perfectly. So we're now on to the book that I think probably most people know Emily Henry for at the minute, because it was such a massive release, and rightly so. That is Happy Place. Happy Place, oh, I can't even explain how much Happy Place means to me. I read it at a time that was very, very difficult for me. I'd just gone through a breakup myself, and reading a book about second chance romance and breakups and dealing with them and healing from them, it was a lot to deal with at the time, but such a stunning, gorgeous, necessary book. I actually ended up starting off my Goodreads review with that Emily Henry will be paying for my therapy from now on, and it's so true. She really needs to. I was crying from, I think, like page 20 onwards. I don't think I stopped crying while reading this book. It was a lot. And what I would say is, do not let the title deceive you. Happy Place is not a happy, fluffy, fun book. It's really, really emotional. It deals with a lot of heartbreak, a lot of healing, a lot of trauma, and I think that's probably a reason why I loved it so much, was that that was exactly the book that I needed at the time I read it. This book is just full of loneliness and rejection and fear of abandonment and family and friendship, and it was honestly, I can't even explain how much it means to me. So in this book we have Harriet and Wyn, and they were together for 8 years, and then 6 months ago they broke up for reasons that they don't even really know themselves, and their upcoming annual trip with their friends is happening, and they haven't actually told their friends that they've broken up. So they are both invited on this trip, and they decide to, rather than ruin the trip for everybody, to go along with it, pretend that they're still together, and then tell their friends that they've broken up afterwards. That's a lot. And what you do get in this book is flashbacks to when Harriet and Wyn were falling in love, when they first met, their relationship when it was established, and that was the best choice Emily Henry could have done, because it made the present day setting so soul crushing. Like, seeing how happy they were and then seeing them broken up, it was very, very emotional. And a lot of this book really does deal with friendship. I know that a lot of people, that's kind of their biggest gripe about this book, was the whole friendship situation, but I think it was dealt with really well. I think that it's so true that when you grow up, your friendships do change, and how you approach friendships do change, your priorities change in life, and that's really scary. You don't know how you're going to fit into your friends' lives who you've known since school, since university, who you used to see every single day and now you see once every 6 months. It's a scary time, and I think that Emily Henry wrote it brilliantly. I think that she wrote something that a lot of people can really relate to, and I think that if you can't relate to it yet, it's just because you haven't gotten to that stage in your life yet, or you're very lucky if you haven't. And honestly, all I can say is that I'm never going to emotionally recover from this book. Some of my favourite quotes from Happy Place are, "So many of his details is slightly different, but my heart still sees him and whispers into my veins, you. Hearts can be so stupid. In every universe, it's you for me, even if it's not me for you. How many universes do you think we're together in? Higher than either of us can count. You are in all of my happiest places. You are where my mind goes when it needs to be soothed. Everything combusted at once, and somehow I still thought we'd make it. When he promised to love me forever, I believed him. That was what made me the angriest with both of us." Honestly, all I can say about this book is I'm never going to emotionally recover from it. I would always recommend this. I think that this is a fantastic book. If you have ever been through a breakup, you need to read this book. And finally, we are on to the biggest release of the year, my most anticipated release of the year, probably everyone's most anticipated release of the year, Funny Story. Oh, I still can't believe I have an early copy of this. I'm so happy. This is being published today on the 25th of April, and this is I don't even think that this is a trope that exists outside of this book, but this is ex's new fiance's ex. So this is another one that was very emotional. This is more dealing with the healing of heartbreak rather than the sort of initial heartbreak itself like Happy Place was. This is definitely a incredibly emotional read, but a much more healing one. This was one that I felt a lot more comforted by than traumatized by. So in this we have Daphne, who was engaged to Peter, and then he, on his stag do, leaves her for his best friend Petra, kicks her out of the house that they own, but it's all in his name so he can. She has to move in with Petra's ex, Miles, and they have to kind of deal with the fact that their two exes are now together. And honestly, it was incredible. I don't know how Emily Henry does it every single time. If you have been anticipating this book, you will not be disappointed, I promise. In this book, Daphne, our main character, goes through some really intense character development. She sort of learns self-love, self-growth, and it's a lot of dealing with issues of abandonment. So she has a lot of those issues from her dad, and it was really emotional in that sense to see her come to terms with her feelings about her dad. I thought that that was really, really well done. And the love interest in here, Miles, where do I find a Miles? He is so Nick Miller coded. If you've watched New Girl and you've seen the scene of New Girl, that's Miles. Miles is him. Miles is Nick Miller, and where do we find these guys in real life? That's the question. This is not a funny story. It is funny. What I really liked about it was that Daphne and Miles had such great banter about what they've been through, but it's really emotional at the same time. I don't think you could class this as a funny story, but it was absolutely incredible. I could not recommend it enough. What I really love about this book was the setting. I so want to go to Waning Bay and experience the farmers markets, go to the library where Daphne works, go to the little wine bar where Miles works. It was just, I felt so immersed into this town. I felt like I could go on a trip there and see Daphne Miles walking around. It felt so genuinely real, and I think Emily Henry always does such an incredible job with her settings. Particularly Happy Place had an incredible setting as well. So some of my favourite quotes from Funny Story. Obviously I'm not going to say too many because I don't want to spoil it before anyone's read it, because obviously this is coming out on the release date of Funny Story. But some of my favourite quotes are: the same universe that dispassionately takes things away can bring you things that you weren't imaginative enough to dream up. She was too happy with the life she'd built for herself to change it for anyone who didn't set her world on fire. You're wonderful. You're the reason for the word wonderful. You make every single thing that went wrong feel like it was just a step in the right direction. So happy publication day to Funny Story. If you have been thinking about picking this book up and it is your most anticipated release of the year, I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed with it. This is Emily Henry at her best. So here's like a little breakdown, a very quick mini breakdown. If you are looking for an emotional read about healing, read Happy Place. If you are looking for a book about learning to be happy without being in a relationship, read Funny Story. If you are looking for the best enemies to lovers book about grief and love and just every human emotion, read Beach Read. If you are looking for an incredible friends to lovers story that takes you on a trip all around the world, read You and Me on Vacation. And if you are looking for an opposites attract, small town romance that deals with sisters, read Book Lovers. Emily Henry, I adore you. Please, 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 please never stop writing. I love you. So I can't wait to see what comes next from Emily Henry. I will read anything that she puts out, whether it was going into a completely different genre, whether it was just her shopping list, I would read it because I love her so much. And all of her books just make me feel so incredibly seen, like she's just peered into my brain and pulled out exactly the book that I need to read at that time. Like, insane. I mean, for her to time the release of Happy Place with when I was going through a breakup, a little in sync thing going on. This was the definitive guide to Emily Henry. I hope that you really enjoyed this video. Hope that you, if you're planning to read Funny Story, I hope that you love it just as much as I did. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye!